kind of sell a bad attitude. We kind of sell getting away with bad attitude. You know, sort of a bit of a fuck you is what we sell in a way. You know, whatever music we choose, whatever attitude we choose when we're on shift. Try and get like 4 orders up at once and see if all the sheep can fight for the ketchup, you know. Sometimes the cooks can be kind of surly, and I like to call up like 6 names and be super chipper and, you know, enjoy your food, thank you very much. And people just look at me like, am I really, this is the hardest time, right? When we first started, it wasn't like a lot of other collectives where a bunch of people sit down and say, let's start a restaurant, let's buy a spot. The place was going under. And the employees who were here at the time said, well, we want to keep this going. Can we start a collective? And Dodge said, okay, give me $100 out of the till a day, and we'll see if you make it.
I rented it out to the Urban Peasant. They ran it for until November 17th, 1992. At that point, they had pretty much run it into the ground. I had no interest in the Urban Peasant. They were a tenant that was far behind in the rent. He walked out the door. The lawyer told me that it was my building and my business now. And I told the employees, or as Urban Peasant employees, that I was going to lock the door. There were maybe about 10 customers in this building at the time. The people that worked for the Urban Peasant were not happy about that. They said, what about us? My response to that was, what about you? You know, you don't work for me. I have nothing to do with you. This is a business that just failed. In a building that I own, and I'm going to lock the door. They came out, a few people gathered around me and said, we work here. We've kept this place together. Even though, you know, the management of the Urban Peasant wasn't paying much attention to it, we have kept it together. We run it. We know how to run it. 8 people came to me a week later with an entity, the Hard Times Cafe. It's been a tremendous lesson in work and labor and business management for all the people that have come through here since, and I'm absolutely proud of it.
Do you want to go on group? Technically, for our tax purposes, I think Brian Monroe is the president or something. I'm a secretary. That's just like for the IRS and like for the bank.
I think I've survived 10 years through a lot of difficulties, a lot of work I didn't agree with because I was working for an idea. I wasn't working for my coworkers. I wasn't really working for my customers. I was working for the structure and the idea of it.
The business office.
Yeah. This is the glorious dungeon.
You ever had to deal with like an audit or anything that you know of?
Yeah, we get audited fairly regularly. There was a period where like nobody was really doing any bookkeeping.
Obviously, a collective is a different form of organization from like a business that's owned by an individual or a corporation or a nonprofit. There's no question, is it?
There's a nonchalance behind what we do. It's not, we don't have giant banners out on our building that say, fuck the police, but it's very clear that that's how we feel. It's very clear we don't like corporate structure. It's very clear that we almost laugh trying to imagine that you could live like that. There's a whole subculture going on here outside of this restaurant of people who live 15 to a house. And everybody splits the bills, and it costs you like $90 to live, if that.
What are you going to be doing this evening?
Riding the bikes.
Riding the bikes?
Yeah.
Sweet.
Yep.
Yeah.
Gordy was a drinker. He was shaggy. He was overweight. He had a deep, growly voice. He didn't give a shit for nothing. The hell with it all.
Superficially, Gordy was a big, nasty guy who sat in the same spot in the Hard Times Cafe for 7-8 years, and was one of those people I mentioned that smelled really, really, really bad. But we always had kind of a relationship with Gordy, and that relationship happened before I got here. I didn't know why this guy got to sit there, except that everybody seemed to love him. And he was an old vet, he was a train hopper, and this was sort of where he finally came to in the end.
You can't know everything the customer's doing. You got drugs in your pocket? Did you smoke a joint before you came here? You can't tell. How can you tell? But if you took speed and you're hammering me with that camera, I would know. And you get booted out on your butt.
Yeah, my friends would make me, they were older, they'd make me sneak out of my bedroom window, and we'd go to Romps at the Bedlam or go hang out at the train bridge.
Yeah.
Drink Carlo Rossi. Come here and eat nachos and stuff.
Nice.
It became the Hard Times when I was like, 12, I think. And when I was 14, I left home. And I was living under the Washington Avenue Bridge right in the U campus. And I would come up here real late at night, and Brian would let me sweep the sidewalk, and in exchange he'd give me a cheese and sprout sandwich and let me pass out in the dining room until we reopened.
There was a time when the cops were rather hostile to the Hard Times Cafe, but I don't believe that that's the case right now.
Joan Campbell, who was this area's, city council member, was getting a lot of pressure to improve this neighborhood. That's when a lot of the fighting was happening, and there were all sorts of things happening at once. There was a huge wave of immigration. A lot of Southside gangsters were coming down here, and so she was getting a lot of harassment to clean up the neighborhood. And so her decision to clean up the neighborhood was to target us, because obviously we were a den of villainy and treachery and kids with lots of dreadlocks. So they sent this like 16-year-old undercover, well, maybe she wasn't 16, but she looked about 16-year-old undercover cop. And she just got to know various people in the dining room and various employees and stuff. And then she got real cozy with one of our workers who was, kind of a lonely 40-something-year-old man. And eventually she asked him if he could get her some pot. He was not a drug dealer. He used it, but he wasn't a drug dealer, but he liked this girl. So he went to somebody and got some and gave it to her, and that could have been fine, except the transaction happened on the cafe property. Therefore, it became an employee selling drugs, and then we got raided. And they attempted to say that because we were a collective, then we were all responsible for this one guy's action. And unfortunately, when they raided us, they found various drugs on our customers, which, I don't know how much that can reflect on you. If you go to any bar in this neighborhood, you'll find crack, you'll find smack, you'll find coke in any customer's pocket. So I don't, how much that should really reflect on us is questionable. But so they raided us, and they shut us down for a while, and we went to court, and we lost the battle. And then we appealed it, and we won the appeal. And the basic argument behind the appeal was, if one Taco Bell employee gets caught selling a 20 sack of dough, you fire the Taco Bell employee, you don't shut down the Taco Bell franchise. And so there's no reason why, just because it was one employee here, we fired that employee. You know, we checked all our workers, we followed, they brought the fire marshal in to tell us everything that was wrong with our cafe, we fixed that. They brought the health inspector, there's really nothing for the health inspector to find because we don't use meat. So we sort of jumped through all the various hoops, and in the end we won the appeal.
Cam Gordon wasn't running for anything back when the Hard Times Cafe got busted. But he wrote a letter. He said, this is just a general letter of support. I like that place, and I think that what happened was wrong, and you should license them and be done with this. And later on, he became the alderperson. He just got elected to city council. So.
Yeah, back then I was just a regular customer, a neighborhood resident, and a citizen. I got the impression that our Hard Times in a way was being picked on and harassed, and I don't know where it was initiated from. I think that there might have been some paranoid ideas in the community about what was going on there, and I know there was even some sting operations that were involved there and efforts to create more problems than were already going on. I remember a long time ago with the 24-hour thing, people were talking about how runaways would go there, or it was a place for homeless people to hang out maybe, or things like that. And so that, I guess that maybe some people were concerned in that regard.
I mean, my parents didn't come looking for me. They knew exactly where I was. I find it funny, just the idea that there would be a criticism behind that, because at least they're going somewhere, and at least it's somewhere where you're getting coffee and food as opposed to, you know, Coke and lots of alcohol. I don't know. I mean, you know, people often run away from home because they don't feel like they belong. Well, here's a whole place full of people who don't belong.
What I think that most Americans want is a place of great diversity. It serves, it ranges from soups to drunks, basically. If you leave your gun at the door, if you leave your attitude at the door, you're welcome in here.